Good morning. 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 There we go. Okay. Charlton or Fortune, make it a listening.
Hello, my name is Steve Hawk. I'm an art dealer and writer. Here to talk a little bit about E. Sherrill Fortune, who was one of the founders of the Monterey History and Art Association, and perhaps California's greatest early impressionist. She was born in 1885 in the Bay Area, Sausalito, and was born with a cleft palate. And in those days, that couldn't be fixed. And so she carried that all her life. It made for a difficult childhood. Still, her parents and her family had a decent amount of money, and she studied art in Scotland and England in her teen years, but would come back to the Bay Area. In 1906, the San Francisco earthquake and fire, she lost her home. It was dynamite to stop the fire. It didn't work, but she and her mother roamed that whole night. And they pinned little labels to their jackets, giving their names and addresses. And they found out the next day that a lot of people did that because the fear of death was not as great as the fear of being anonymous. She overcame these things to become, as I said, one of the great artists. She was somewhat of a modernist, an impressionist, and very much a colorist. When she was in her early 40s, she turned to liturgical art. She was a Catholic. She didn't wear it on her sleeve, but she was a strong Catholic. Because of that, because of turning to the liturgical art, later on she stopped doing impressionism. Her paintings have gone for 5, 6, and 7 figures, partially because they're brilliant, also because they're very rare, because she lived into her 80s, dying in 1969. But there's not that much of her work that there is of other artists who do kind of a full life of that. I wrote a play on her. I call it Fortune's Way, I Note on Art for Catholics and Others, and it was done last year in the area. Probably be done more this year. I said it toward the end of World War II, the 1943, 44, 45 period. And the reason I did was because of what is going on today in the world, the economy, the wars, the general stress we're all experiencing. I look back at Fortune's life. Here's a young woman. It's hard to make it as an artist, even if you're a male at that time. As a woman, it was extra hard. So she grows up with a cleft palate, her house destroyed. Her brother goes off in World War I as a civil engineer looking for oil. She survives the Great Depression. World War II, again, she worries about her brother, who's older now, and overseas looking for oil. She comes out of all of that, and she's a great artist. I would think she might have had 12 breakdowns during that time. When you compare it to what's going on now, it was just such an awful lot for those people going through those things. Yet she not only won the silver medal at the Paris Salon, she won the gold medal from the American Institute of Architects for design, and that was for her religious work. She was later awarded a medal by the Pope for designing churches, which is what she did in the 30s when she turned to religious art. She formed something called the Monterey Guild. The group met in Monterey, but then they decorated churches and cathedrals across the country. A year and a half ago at Barnum's, a big oil of hers came up for auction of the Monterey waterfront. It was about 30 by 40 inches. They had an estimate of 400,000 to 600,000 on it. It went for $1.8 million. It was interesting that Fortune signed her paintings E. Sherrill Fortune and went by that. Most of the women artists of that period used an initial, and the reason was they thought they got a fairer break for judges if the judges didn't know they were a woman artist. And it actually worked. There was an artist married to Neil Morgan who would sign M to Neil Morgan, and in the 30s she was judged in San Francisco. And the critic for the San Francisco Chronicle said, Mr. Morgan shows bold, masculine strokes. So, that worked. It worked. Fortune may have done that, used the E for her first initial, but also supposedly she didn't like her first name. which was euthymia, and friends called her Effie. So I read recently in the book of Teague that great paintings and plays and novels, they often leave a little for you to fill in, that draws you into it. They don't connect all the dots. Fortune was that way. Her great impressionistic work, it's a little vapory, the colors are gorgeous, but she doesn't do all the details. When she did landscapes with figures in them, she basically left the face blank because she felt that the artist should be able to express what the person was thinking and feeling by their body posture. Her colors are way beyond her time, reds, blues, yellows. When she came along, most of the artists were doing something called tonalism, which is closely related browns and greens and yellows, more mood things. He kind of was one of the artists that broke that mold. She was considered a modernist in some ways, which was again ironic because years later she kind of rebelled against what was coming up and then considered modern. There's a famous group called the Society of Six, and their paintings are much sought after. And they influenced artists on the East Coast and perhaps even Europe. And a lot of them were influenced by Fortune. So you can see that she just had this kind of power that went out and out and out. Especially when you consider it was just a 25 or 30 year period when she was doing this painting. She had quite an effect. Fortune was probably considered the leading woman artist in this area, and Armin Hansen was considered the leading male artist. He did a lot of paintings of fishermen. He had shipped out in Europe when he was studying in Germany. I think you probably saw a few people drown. And he was very taken with that kind of passion. Fortune also did fishermen, but she did them at a distance. She did harbor and things like that. California Impressionism has made its mark around the country basically in the last 25 or 30 years. Though these artists most of them made really good livings during their time and did fairly well. They were not starving. People always think that an artist just gets famous when they die. Sometimes they disappear because the strong personality is not there, and that helps sell paintings. But Hansen and Fortune were among the group of maybe 25 or 30 leading painters of that time. Arthur Matthews was in San Francisco. Marion Wachtel was in Los Angeles. They were all wonderful painters. Here you had Mary Danielle Morgan. Xavier Martinez was here part of the time. Gottardo Piazzoni is a great painter. And most of them go from anywhere from $10,000 to $1.5 million to this day. And I think a lot of them would be shocked by that. One of the things to California, and they came from everywhere. They came from England and Germany and France, and they came from Cleveland and St. Louis and Baltimore and New England. Sometimes it might take them, once they arrived here, 4 or 5 years to get to California, but most of them, once they arrived, a lot of them would be here for a couple months, then go back to their original city. The same thing was happening sort of in New Mexico, in Taos, too. That they were finding that this was a place that was interesting and that they could paint it year round. I mean, if you're a painter in Massachusetts or Maine, you can only get out 6 or 7 months a year, and so that had an appeal. It also had an appeal because California was growing, was in a different state of flux than the East Coast and the Midwest. And most of the painters would come out and stay. Same thing happened with a lot of the writers, of course, too. Real quick story on Isha and Fortune, which has traveled. The Monterey Museum of Art did a major show on her about 12, 15 years ago. This is the catalog on it, and it's a good thing to read. By the way, this is by the Carmel Art Association, and that's on Fortune, and that's a really wonderful book to read. And it has a lot of information on her. Anyway, there's a show at the museum, and I'm standing there with the director, Richard Gadd. I think it was Richard, it might have been somebody else. And the Fortune show was going on. It was a Thursday afternoon, and the museum was not crowded. And there were 2 or 3 people looking at the paintings, and all of a sudden we heard this man yell, "Yippee!" And he comes running out, and we said, "Why did you just say yippee? Did you like the painting?" He said, no. He said, "I'll be back in 15 or 20 minutes." He drove off. He came back, pulled his car up. We heard the screech. He came running out with a painting about this big by Isha and Fortune that he had bought 3 weeks ago in a pawn shop in London for about 20 pounds. And it must have been worth, even at that time, $30,000 or $40,000. I read a film called Time Captured in Paintings, The Monterey Legacy, and it plays on PBS. It was done through the museum. We got a great narrator in Jack Lemmon. I mean, that was really wonderful. It won a Cine Golden Eagle. And in researching the film, what I really learned is that these people had a lot of courage. You know, they had a lot of courage. It was tough to be an artist, and it was tough to be in an area that was kind of wild. You didn't know if you could make a living. If you were a woman artist, it was really difficult. And these people are really important. To go just a little bit before the Impressionists, some of the artists that came earlier, like Thomas Hill and Thomas Moran, and the same sort of painters, and they would have known some of these people. They would have been in their 50s and 60s when the others would have been in their 20s and 30s. If it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't have Yosemite. We probably wouldn't have Yellowstone. We wouldn't have the records of Native Americans we do. They did paintings that got back to the East Coast. There was one story of an explorer who discovered a mountain and wanted to name it after himself, and somebody said, "Boy, you better check." And it ended up Thomas Moran had painted that mountain 5 years earlier. So he was not the first there.
All right.
Remember the Pasadena Museum of California Art?
Yeah, yeah.
They had a E. Charlton Fortune show there.
Yeah.
Did you get to see it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Was,
She loves that sort of cobalt blue.
yes, she does. That's why I picked this painting. Yep. An ultramarine blue, really. And she likes stark contrast. I've noticed in lots of her paintings. So, but the reason I like this painting is because I like the nature in the foreground, and it sort of acts like a curtain, or you look through it. It doesn't obscure really. I mean, it kind of does, but it's just a really pleasant way to look at a landscape with nature first. And even the harbor is really just, quaint. It's a really nice scene. So, but it has her stark contrast in the foreground. Even in the background, you can see way off in the background a lot of stark contrast. She was not afraid of the dark, that's for sure. I don't think she was afraid of anything. Did you hear that about that? Everything she went through in her life, geez. She had a lot of points against her, and really came out. She had a lot of things in her favor too, but a lot of people with things in their favor really blow it. I think she did. I think she did really well. So.
Yeah.
But I like what he said about these artists being so brave. Really, I don't think it was easy. So, let's get into the value study. Oh, let me turn on my HD here. I don't want to mess that up again. Okay. We can make sure we're muted. Okay, and everybody's got their cameras off. Good, because the cameras actually messed up a class of mine the other day. Everything was freezing. I said, uh-oh. So I had everybody turn their cameras off, and then about 3 to 5 minutes later, everything sort of went back to normal. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but...
When you first came on after the film and were talking, your image was frozen on and off.
It was, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. Your speaking was fine, but it wasn't going along with your movements of your face or mouth.
Well, see, I don't know if that's the internet or if that's all the... I noticed a lot of people had their videos on. I had to turn them off.
Oh, after the film?
Yeah, even with the film going. So just try to remember the videos, especially the videos, but definitely the audio too. All right?
Streaming a video takes a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah. So, and I never am sure what the actual cause is. But, all right, so we have some sky back here. just come down. Let's see, I don't think maybe that far. In the background, and you can see some mountain growth there. And then she has this pretty dark area right on the shore. I mean, to be that far away compared to some of these, it's pretty dark. She gets it to work because of her use of blue. She pushes the blue, and you know, blue will recede too. You know, I have to say, I got the privilege of looking at her pieces in person in a lot of them when they had that show, and it really rocked me. I mean, I just remember thinking, wow, I wish I could have studied under her. Wow, she'd have a lot of things to say. Whoopsie. The tape came up. Okay. And okay, so we have things on the shore. I'm not even going to try to hit those. And then we have this, about this far down, and we have these shacks and whatever. So let's just hit a few of those. And you know, you don't have to get all of these just perfect. You'd be surprised when you drape the foreground full of nature and whatever. It just sort of makes everything go passive in the background. And she loves these little pylons or stilts or whatever they're called. Okay. There's a wall here and a wall here. I don't know what's going on with that. Some sort of, okay. And then we've got, the land is, look how far down the land is. Way down here, it just goes up to there like that. So we get all this blue water. And of course, all these little boats. We have some of these just going that way. Some of these kind of going up through the. And it looks really pleasant the way she did it, but the truth is, it's pretty brave to have this beautiful painting that would actually probably sell on its own. And then what she do? She takes a tree right over the thing. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, you can really ruin a painting doing that.
I know when I first looked at it, I thought, well, that tree's in the way.
Right. But it sort of instead of getting in the way, I think it shows it off. It sort of says, hey, look over here, we've got a focal point. Look over there. I'm not gonna. It's just, I don't know. Okay. All right, that's about all the drawing I do. That's about all the drawing we'll do in the finish too. Really not that much. And take the Prussian blue and the cad red. Mix them together. And we'll put them pretty dark. I'm just going to go a little bit lighter. Could have done the sky first. It really doesn't matter. We do have a bunch of little lights here, lights and darks. This background hill is almost as light as the sky. I'll just sort of mention it. It really has these darks here. I mean, they're quite dark. Little touches, and probably could have left more white on it too, for smoke. That's neat. You know, if you have any white, you could try a little white in there. Like, want to get some of those. And you know, I'll just leave the beach white and looks like, wow, it looks like this is going to dry maybe a little on the light side. I'm going to hit that a little bit darker back there. Wow. And the ocean back here with the little bit of boats in there. That's cool. It's pretty light. It's about as light as the sky. Almost. I have a few of these. Some little areas where the boats are. Spread that out on that. And there's a couple of white boats, but the rest of them are dark. Yeah, so he talks about her in company with the biggest names in plein air at the time, and justifiably so. I have to say, in my opinion, her work stands next to anybody. And Armin Hansen, he mentioned in there, another Bay Area type of plein air painter, up there. He's like amazing. He's like one of my very, very, very favorites. I don't have a favorite, but he's one of them. Because one of the bravest painters, I mean, just really attacks the canvas. And they had a show of his at that museum too. It's too bad. What happened to the museum? Bummer.
Yeah. I think it was money to run it.
Yeah, but I guess so. Because Pasadena's really hurting for money.
Well, it was privately run by the people that supposedly lived in the top, or I don't know.
I heard something about that.
I didn't quite understand it.
Well, it was a good museum. That's all I understand.
Yeah, they had terrific shows.
So pretty light up in the sky. So let's get into some of these. Sort of. We have this. Wait. We have this kind of brown house here, which I should just say it's the darkest house in the center. I'll make it a little bit darker. And he's got a friend over here, which has a dark shadow and casts a shadow. Look how blue it gets in there because it's casting a shadow onto that. We'll have to punch that again here. And this one casts a shadow onto all this, which is very impressionist to do that. They're painters of light. Now this one here is a fairly dark building too. But then behind it's an extremely light building. All right, we have some very light stuff back here with a sort of beige colored, medium valued. Yeah, in there. And then let's really punch some darks in the pole pylons underneath here. We get some pretty dark reflections on the water there. Dark shadows. I want to go very dark with the shadows. here, kaboom, kaboom. They're dark. Underneath here. And then medium values, kind of light to medium values on the brown. Are they called pylons? The poles that hold the pier up?
Or pilings.
Pilings? Okay, I like that. Yeah, that's it. I don't want to keep saying the wrong word. You know, I do that most of the time, don't I? Let me turn that off. Okay. I think that's looking pretty good. You see how abstract this is? We won't have to get much more detailed than that. It's not a whole lot of detail. We do have this brown on the water, though. Another really, with a very dark reflection for the doorway. The doorway gets in there, and the shadow gets in there. So, all right.
She was probably exaggerating what she saw, huh, just for interest.
An artist like this just uses what they're looking at. They're so good at drawing and painting and color and everything that it's no way did it look like that. It looks similar, but to get this look, you know, I'm sure even the foliage in front of it wasn't exactly like that.
Oh.
You know, they don't just paint what they see. I mean, an impressionist always moves things around to fit the composition to make it right. So just remember, constantly editing. She takes out things where she doesn't need it. She puts things in where she does. Okay, I think we're ready for the foreground, and what we can do here is, I think we'll start off with some sort of, sort of medium values. We've got a lot of light here too. Now we're going to get that. Going to probably have to use white today, you guys, or we could leave it out. But I think that using white's probably the better way. A lot of medium values going over here, right through it. Really dark shadow on the ground. We'll hit that darker. I don't want to know where it is. This foliage right here, you see how the shadow comes from this tree, goes over this foliage right here. And of course darker than that, but I want to start off a little bit lighter. And then let's go a little darker down in here, in it. There, definitely in the corner, and that's no accident. That's an eye stopper right there, boom. Keeping you from going out of the composition. And it's also kind of weird that she didn't do an amazing amount of paintings. Usually people that are this good do lots of them.
Well, I think this religious thing got in the way, so to speak.
Yeah, it just, you know, it's just, no, I'm just saying her skill level is so high, and her idea, her intellectual idea of the way she arranges and everything is, usually you get that by doing lots and lots of paintings.
Yeah. I think there were a lot of psychological things going on. Since she was such a strict Catholic, that because the show at the Pasadena Museum of California Art implied that she was a lesbian. And I think she perhaps had problems accepting it, and
But
so,
what I'm saying is that you don't usually get this good by doing a few paintings. Usually you do a lot of paintings to get this good. So,
yeah.
I mean, a lot of paintings, like thousands. So it's just a little odd that it should be, but maybe there's a lot more out there. He said they're sort of rare. Unlike, let's say, Edgar Payne, there's just tons of them. Or some of these other more famous impressionists, California impressionists. So a little darker down here now. And see, I'm just kind of getting into my darks. And down here, and this vertical here, that's a clear stop. It's called a stop. Compositional. So it just keeps you from going out of the piece. Keeps you from going. She's framing you in. You have no way of getting out.
Does she have a focal point?
Well, this is a lot like a lot of impressionist piece. It's not a. It's a scene. You know, it's a. You don't get caught up in the focal point thing. You know, I mean, so many people do that. That's a classical thing when you're telling stories that it really works. But when you're painting a scene, it doesn't always. You can have a very poetic all-over scene that really works and doesn't have a clear focal point. You could say it's this tree right here. You could say, of course, this band of houses here. Maybe back here, there's maybe 3 focal points, but they're not like. You know, I guess the one that's screaming at you is back here, so there's a lot of contrast here, but I don't know. I take it all in as a scene. Yeah, I know a lot of people get, I don't know. I mean, I'll teach, you know, when I teach composition, I'll talk to you about focal points, but to say what the, like you asked, where's the most clear focal point? Probably right in the center where you're not supposed to put it, right? Yet she does it and pulls it off magically.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of an extended focal point in the center.
Yeah.
With the white houses and then the darks thrown in.
Yeah. So
it's long drawn out.
Oftentimes in impressionism and they don't go by this 1, 2, 3 focal point thing. They paint the scene and then they'll just emphasize things that they want to and until the composition works. But very unlike a classical painting, which absolutely has a main focal point and things directing your eye to that focal point, and you know, and you can certainly work with those things, but it's not always that way in impressionism and beyond. Because that's about storytelling, and this is more of almost about poetry, really. Just a poetic scene. Now, what we may have to do today is just take some white, like up in here. I kind of want to do this now just to show you how we'll approach it. Just take some white back over a lot of these things. Because it's a very opaque painting, and you don't have to do it this way, but it'll probably help you. Now with a lot of these leaves, they're quite light, but we can glaze some green like right over that blue if we have white down there first. So we'll do some white magic today. Because when you're copying an oil, you know, it's an opaque painting, you know, where you're just not going to get the same look. There's a lot in here.
Are these white, gouache white, or just watercolor white?
I would use gouache. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, the watercolor white is just less. You can use it though, but it's just less it's less potent, so it won't cover as well. And sometimes you want that. So we'll do it that way. Maybe what we'll do is paint it sort of dark. We'll just paint it first and then come back with our lights and highlight things. Yeah, I think that's it. We'll come back with the light, highlight things, and then glaze back over those. So I'm gonna come in.
Are you talking about glazing color? Isn't this the value study?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is value study. Yeah. Okay. And okay. I think my ocean can go a little bit darker than that. Yeah, that makes it pop a little bit there. This is very light, the sand. But just smack, smack, smack those darks like down in here, definitely in here, a couple in back and down here and in here. Really hit them. Okay, let's move on to the color. And this one I don't want to get too caught up into because I don't have any time. I have so many windows open, it's so hard to find things. Okay, let's see. That's another thing that could be a problem because it uses so much memory. It might cause a problem with the video. Okay, so again, I'm going to go. Well, no, that sky is very green compared to how purple, like how violet her ocean is, which is odd. It's usually the other way around. So I go with the Prussian blue and just very light. Very light. And then we have a lot of gray back in here, but we also have a lot of that ultramarine blue and strong. So let's make a gray out of cad red, cad yellow, and ultramarine blue. And then I would add more blue to it. It's definitely dominant blue. And then let's just take ultramarine blue, pure ultramarine blue, and put it in there, just dashes of it. Now, try this too. Well, add a little bit of white to your ultramarine blue. And when you put it in dark, even though you're putting it in kind of dark, it'll have more substantial. Let me get the glare off it here. Okay. Right now, let's see, we'll come up to about, let's just throw some of those little houses in. The brown house, The other house here. And the white things. There's a white house on the back here. Yellow house, and then a red house. Brown house again, that's right. And then little boats. We've got this tree. Okay. Again, let's add a little bit of white to our ultramarine blue for the water. Well, maybe a lot of white, actually. Ah, it's coming out kind of gray. It means I must have had something else in my brush. To get a color that pure, you're gonna have to really get clean with your color. I even use really clean water. Let's see what that is. Okay, better. Just wonder if it's going to be dark enough. I think so. Let me give it a shot here. And just behind all of these, I'm just going to paint right over the boats. We can opaque them in. And if you have gouache, go ahead and use gouache. If you have gouache paint, you don't have to use watercolor for this. You know, in my classes, I'm not stingy about the medium you're using. Go ahead and use whatever works for you. It does get a little darker toward the foreground. You know. Can increase the paint right over the tree. Here gets the color gets a little bit richer in here. So with the red, yellow, and blue, you can make it brown pretty well. Let's get a little more orange in that. Basically, it's just an orange with a little bit of blue in it. Get it to work on the water, you may have to put a little white in it. I'll see. Now this one over here is, I got a little bit the same color over there. This one over here is a little bit whiter. So I'm going to lighten it with actually white. I got that there, so I got this one about here. And then also the, you know, you could probably put a glaze of color over that too, but I'm just going to do it like this. I have white in my color. So I just had this color right here, and I've added white to it. Red, yellow, and blue. See, it's kind of orangey, pinky orangey. So I let that be the dominant color. There's a little bit over here on these. There's some on this background house over here too, which is behind the trees mostly. So I'll just put in a little bit of that color. It's a bit yellower way far away, but on the so I see a lot of these colors back here, just dashes back here. And back there, you can, there's definitely a couple of reds back there. Kind of browny colors. A couple of those back there too. Oops. And what else? Now I'm just going to take pure white and hit it on some of these, like the smoke. I don't know what this is over here, but it's a little lighter. Just bare land. And some of the faces of these little white houses are just really hits them. She is not afraid of contrast. And some of these houses here too, they are just, I mean, these little, just hit the white on there. Here too. Pretty opaque. While we're at it, we have a couple of neat little boats back here. Just get yourself a couple of those. That's all it is. She even hits a little white on the shore, doesn't she? Little waves. Which means the beach is just slightly warmer than the white. Ooh, maybe a little less than that. And we have these mountains up here in the background there. I'm also using the white in the color to get things to go far away. I'm just going to use straight ultramarine blue. You could put white in it or not, it doesn't matter. I'm going to cast a few little shadows on some of the buildings. In there, down there. That's pretty dark. To be on the white, would lighten that up a little bit. A little bit of one on this little. And again, a lot of this just goes passive when you put the trees over it. So you'd be surprised how much you can get away with, and it won't really show. I mean, even if you look at hers up close, you'll see that there's really not. Back here, like in this little row of houses, or shacks on the pier, they're not nearly as detailed as you might think. She does have this really good dark right there. And down here, let's go hit those darks. A lot of blue in those darks. And it's ultramarine blue. Now, George said cobalt too, and you know, cobalt and ultramarine can be very close, depending on which brand name you get, but they're both violet sort of blues, so I could see using that too. Right down there, and then we got this, a lot of this down in here. You know, when you get back behind the tree too, it's just, you're just getting a lot of abstraction. I'm seeing some yellow things back there. Yellow house over here, that's a little dark. That's better. With a little shadow side on it. Now, I didn't want to paint the whole painting. Let's just start. I think I'm going to start this tree off Oh, let's just get the grass in there first. Red, yellow, and blue. Kind of orange. Orangey colored. A little lighter than that. And that was pretty transparent. And let's just throw the branches down pretty dark first. I'm going to go this way with it. I'm using, for the really dark, let's just use Prussian blue and magenta. I mean, you know, there really aren't a whole lot of darks in here. Just a few, we'll paint over them. We got this one. A lot of these. Sweeping up. Right, this one. In the corner there. This. Okay. And let's see. Now, we can start off with the deeper greens. I'm seeing a lot of blue in those greens, kind of a, let's just see. Okay, so I'm going to use Prussian blue, cad yellow, try throwing a little white in there. That'll make your color a little bit on the kind of pasty side. It just doesn't have a lot of saturation. And then throw a little bit more of that cad yellow back into there, and it'll get more saturated. And then throw a little bit of cad red, just very little off to the side so you can get some of those orangey colors. And I'll start it off like this. Out the page there. I could have started my tree over a little further. You see how opaque that is? Just have a few of them right around here. That kind of deal. And then let's lighten it up with white and cad yellow.
Rob, if you want your palette to show, it's covered
My palette is showing?
by the value study.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? Thank you for telling me. I didn't have it. I must have shut it off. Sorry. You said it was showing. Huh. I'm sorry about that. Thanks for telling me. I appreciate that. Yeah, I have so many things going on here. It's hard to keep track of everything. I must have turned it off. Okay, so see how I'm kind of building up my lights on the right side, because that's where the light's coming from. On the light side, on the right side, excuse me. A little lighter. See, just on the right-hand side of things. So this tree, mostly the stuff over here would be, it's catching lights, but it's mostly going to be where the shadows are. The lights, see this little mound right here? So you got the lights off to the right, shadows off to the left. Okay, and then we, you know, some of them get kind of orange. So go ahead, that's what I'm saying. Throw a few of those little red ones in there once in a while, like this. Just throw a couple of these little guys in there. They make it look more natural. You don't need very many of them though. And then let's kick up our lights again with more white and yellow. You could use either yellow. I'm going with the cad yellow, and then I'll probably throw in a little lemon yellow too. But some of these really, really bright ones, you know, just there's not very many of them. But just you know, the dominant ones are really where they're catching a lot of light. And then get like off on here. I'll leave it more in shadow in here. So just think of all foliage. Foliage is like this. Foliage works like this. It's just a ball. Foliage is a ball like this. Okay, and it has a shadow. It also casts a shadow onto the ground. And then it has a light side to it. With highlights. Highlights, and they're usually off to the right side. And the shadows, you know, are off to the left side and more broken. So the more we leaf it out, see, the more it starts looking like a bush. But so then that's the theory of what's going on here. And in her case, grab some Prussian blue and really smack those dark. She does not pull any punches. But that's all the little all the little balls of foliage really kind of do that. So really, it's just a ball. If you can think of them, I mean, it's hard to keep track of them though, so I understand it. But once you realize they're all just like little fuzzy cotton balls, you'll get a lot of. Yeah, it's very similar to that up there. All right. Let's throw in a shadow on the ground. Like I said, that shadow on the ground makes a big difference. And it's very dark. I know she was very fond of that blue. I can't see what blue she's using in there, but that's just pure ultramarine blue.
Well, that ultramarine looks pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you think she could have used a combination ultramarine and copal?
Oh, maybe. You know, it would surprise me. Her blues are so
vibrant.
They're so potent. She uses them straight out of the tube.
Yeah.
Darks in there. There's sort of a little cast shadow going over this. Can you see how this is mostly in shadow? And it's blues. Okay. So in general, you know, that's what we're going to do. Okay, let's get to this finish here. Because the time's a wasted.
Can we take a picture, please?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, let me, hold on a second. Okay. Sure. Let me zoom in on that for you. Yeah, something like that. Here you go. All my little steadies. Got it? Everybody got it?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. And let's see here now. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to measure down. Mine's a little wider than hers. I could probably let's see here. Take some off. Yeah. And I'm going to measure down from the top. How about that far? She has some little mountain range in the background, and then we have this dark. Where the town is. Really shows off the highlights on that town. Must be. Looks like the morning. Put one like that. I want to keep this pretty high up there. Let's see. Yeah. There's shore. And then we have the white beach. And our little boats. Our houses. Right, the top of the house comes, wow, surprisingly high. It's way up here. Yeah. Okay. And it's almost in the center. That's the White House. There's a little shack in front of it. And then there's the red brown house right here. And it kind of looks like it goes like that. I can't really see. Things like that. We have another. Oh, this probably goes back and then what else? It's the White House and the little yellow house next to it. And wow. Oh. Looks like I'm quite a ways off. Maybe it's even more square than I drew it, huh? Okay, there's some there. I may have to tape this off. There we go. Easy enough. And what else we got? Those white walls that just kind of go, I don't really understand them. I think we had a magnifying glass they would. But we have all of these pylons. Down, 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 down. Up to here. And these ones come toward us. We have the kind of an orangey shack right here, yellowy orange shack here. And then some things behind it. I'm just gonna make up, I don't know what's back here. It's just abstraction, so I'm just gonna make up some forms. Okay. We have our boats. I don't think we need to draw those in. We have all these boats in here too. I don't think we need to draw them in really. If you have a couple of boats that you think are show boats, go ahead. We'll see how much work we can get done. Oh, whoops. That should have been here. Okay, and what else? Oh, yeah, we have this brown here. More and all kinds of little boats. You know, I would just paint them in. To draw at every one of those little boats, I don't know. We just won't have the time, I don't think. That's a little bit higher than that, but okay, now I've got a tree, a main tree, you know. And a little bit of a friend there next to them, and then we've got this one, which goes right through, and there's a whole bunch of them. One, two. Kind of a V shape here. There's sort of bushes, bushes around there. And one this way, and a big vertical here. About this far from the edge. There's another one there too. And I don't bother putting in all the leaves. I mean, you could maybe gesturing what you want the leaves to be, but that's about it. A little shadow on the ground. Like that. And I'm gonna make that a little large. I'm leaving a lot of room for the all the architecture back there. And we're just gonna have to sum that up really quick. So I'm gonna go with the Prussian blue for the sky. more green in it. In other words. There we go. She's just really daubing it in there. These sort of cloudy things happening in there too. I'll go ahead and leave a little room for that. Really impressionistic. Get a couple of stronger strokes in there. All right. And back here, kind of a gray lavender. So ultramarine blue and a little bit of magenta. And you know what? I'm going to throw in a little touch of that white. See what it does. And you know, I can see these background mountains, not this one, but the mountains right in front of it are pretty faint as well. They get a lot more blue in them. So you can see the mountains get a little closer to us as they come at us. Over here, a little darker. See how they fade? Something bluer. So let's go with the blue to blue grays. I'm going to add white to this. Let's add ultramarine blue. I'm going to use magenta and a little bit of yellow. Let's try that back here. I like it. And as that color, and don't be afraid to go right over your houses, it won't matter. As that color gets toward the foreground, now we're going to keep adding ultramarine blue to it. More ultramarine blue. You get right over those houses, don't worry about them. A little darker up in here. It's pretty dark. And I think there's a little bit of magenta in that color too. That's a lot. Oh, I see it though, yeah. And just remember, your watercolor is gonna pull the color out. It's gonna dry lighter, so don't be afraid. Smack it in there. You need that dark. That'll make when we come over it with the light leaves, it'll really pop. So you need something back there for it to jump off. There we go, like that. She even smacks a couple of darks in there, I see. I can see it darker. There's little grays in there too, so don't be afraid to hit a little gray in there once in a while. But she really hits the red though. There must be some red trees back here, huh? He is not afraid of color. I mean, she's a master. And I'm surprised, even now, I mean, even today, you would think that her paintings would be beside, William Wendt and Edgar Payne and all these great ones. It's ridiculous. Now, she did put some time into these, this little landscape, I mean, this little townscape back here. Let's just paint right over it. I'll show you how to indicate that later. Let's let it dry up a little bit first. We'll come over that with whites. But how about we get this ocean in here? Now I'm going to use ultramarine blue and white again. I got it really heavy on there. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, then I'm just going to start from the front here instead of the back because I got it so heavy on my brush, and I don't want to get rid of this because it looks real good. So this white on my brush, so virtually you're using gouache. When you add this much white to your paint, watercolor, you're using gouache. You're now a gouache painter. Give yourself a hand. Hey. It's technically not a watercolor class. I mean, even though we mainly work in watercolor, and if you want to get technical, I think gouache is a watercolor. It's just a different kind of watercolor. It's watercolor with, it's opaque watercolor. And you could paint around the boats, or you could just opaque them in later. Whatever you like to do. I'll paint around a couple. See how that dries. A little lighter in there. Right, it gets a little darker. It's but you'll probably be able to see your drawing right through this. Unless you really take it on there. Oh well. Do it the first time. That's what I always say. So now I'm doing the same colors, but I'm adding more water to it. See now, just to show you, you can use opaque watercolor just like regular watercolor. I'm just adding, but it has a little white in it, that's all. Kind of clouds it up a little bit. And some people don't like that. I like it all. I don't know why people don't like that. You're going to say, well, the luminosity, I know. But maybe they're kind of stuck on watercolor, you know? It's important to just release yourself from getting stuck into little woulda, shoulda, couldas, and just look at the beauty of it like it is. There we go. That beach gets kind of beige. So red, yellow, and blue. I don't think I'll put white in it this time. Whoops. One more orange in there. And yellow in there too. Yeah, the background should be pretty dry. So now we come in with some of those white. First of all, I'm going to throw in the white smoke. It has a little gray in it too. Actually, if you sit there and mix it enough, it'll pick up what's on the paper. And see how it looks pretty opaque now, but watch, it'll dry a lot more transparent. It's weird stuff. You know, you gotta get used to it just like anything else. I'll throw a little color into that smoke. And I also see some sort of light land over here. I'm just gonna make a couple. Colors. It's just kind of a beige color with white in it. So that's red, yellow, and blue. It's a dominant orange. So it's red, yellow, and blue. So you make an orange, and then you gray it with a blue. And of course, I add a little white on it, and that's what made it transparent. And I also see a lot of that color down here in the houses. So I am not going to try and paint every darn one of those houses. I'm just going to treat it like this. See how I did that? Of the same color. Because I see a lot of that color down in these houses. And I see some whites, so I'm going to make it a little bit whiter. And hit a couple of those little white houses. Anywhere I see a white, just little taps of white. A little bit on the smoke there. A couple little white faces of houses in here. Even behind here, she's got a couple of white. Smacks a couple of whites there on the hill. Okay, a couple of them back here. And the brain knows how to figure out what's going on. I mean, you'd be surprised. A bunch of little white flicks, that's probably, you know, a little town. Some dark back here. Darker than that. I'm using my Prussian blue and red. You know, my normal dark my normal dark formula. And kapow, she is just not adverse to putting some really dark back there. Right next to that white, which creates a focal point. So maybe she wanted it just to be a you know, oftentimes smoke or steam coming off something can create a little bit of a focal point. So she will come back in some of the shadows of the houses and just hit some little dark things. Redder things in there. Should be even redder. And boy, she hit some blues. Wow, in the shadows. Just smacks these blues back there. And here too, really hits them. Okay, I'm about done with that area because yeah, I just want to hit some more oranges and some buildings in here. Okay. And what else? Okay, so I've got this house right here, my main red house. And I want it a little more orange, and that's what I'm gonna add. I'm adding orange to my Prussian blue and cad red. Yeah, more yellow than that. And it looks like it has a lot of yellow in it on my palette. How's that look? Is that dark enough? A little darker. Huh. And even those little tilings down below have some in it. I'm gonna pull that right down. I got a little bit of white in there. So because I have a little white in there, it'll opaque over the blue, see? Now I did find one watercolor of hers, and it was outstanding, but it wasn't a landscape or anything. It was a bunch of figures, but it was outstanding. I mean, this is insane. This was incredible. It's the only one I could find, but I would be too hard for us. I wouldn't ask you to. I mean, I guess we could have done it, but it was pretty darn hard. Don't have enough time. All right, things in there. I'm going to do this beige house here. I'm just same color, but add white to it. And if you work it kind of messy, you'll get little slips of other colors in there too. That's why Impressionists work. It looks messy, but the truth is it's exactly what they're going for. Because they get all these little accidents. And then they can pick and choose. Do I like this? Do I not? If they like it, they'll leave it. If they don't, they'll change it. If you work, there's a shadow. That's a ultramarine blue, dark, and a little bit of white in it. Now she even gets darker in there. Wow. Okay then. Prussian blue in the dark parts of the shadows. She does not mess around with those darks. Puts her right in there. And she's got this little cast shadow on this building back here. Behind it. Behind the little arch, that's fine. And then we have another cast shadow on this building over here, which is a little dark. Lighten that up a little bit. Other shadows in here, I'll just indicate where they are and come back in them later a little darker. Some shadow on this building here. Just add some ultramarine blue to your orange. It is pretty dark. Yeah. And the top is just a little bit lighter, probably. The roof line, maybe. Here too. And another one there. Oh, this is that beige building. Which I think I drew over a little too far, but I'll just live with it. Putting that down a little dark, so I'm just going to add. I'm putting this one on pretty transparent. That way I could just go get the value I want. And it's got some little shadows kind of stepping down here, and then she's got these blue, light blue cast shadows on these walls, I guess they are here. Almost the same color as the water. And then all these pilings. Right, we've got the little, I have an orange building right there. And as you can see, she doesn't put that much emphasis on it. She's just looking for notes of color, which is, you know, most of the time that's what you're doing in Impressionism. You're just looking for, it's very abstract, you know. Very abstract. And what's back here? Just a bunch of light stuff back here, really. I'm just going to throw a couple of little notes of color back here. Maybe she just has a bunch of light. And I'm going to just take that. I'm going to take the water, color of the water, right up, and then paint the pylons right over it. So this is, oh, this is the, okay. Paint that blue. And then the ultramarine. We got that there. We got another one here. These are just kind of coming down like that, and they're dark. They are dark. So dig into your dark stuff. I mean, I'm looking at Prussian blue in there, just really dark. Prussian blue and magenta. Nice dark. I'll make it a nice dark. I like the Prussian blue and the CAD because they almost make me a black. But it's also very opaque. If you'll notice, the some watercolors are more opaque than others. And so CAD red is a very opaque color, whereas magenta is pretty darn transparent. Okay, and there's that shadow there. And oh. Yeah, at some point you just come back and clean up a lot of these blues. And she does have little other values on there. We just do the best you can today. You know, it's a lot. I'm just getting some little light things on there. They'll dry very different. Okay, we've got all this beige right here on the front. Then we have the yellow building. Beige on the front. Kind of orange. I like it though, but if I want to mute that, just throw a little bit of blue in it. See? A little bit of blue. I'll mute that. And this one's a little bit yellow. And if you want to mute that, throw a little violet on it. Another sort of something in there, kind of yellowish. The top of this house is not so white. Well, not that dark either. Yeah, something like that. Hardly even separates. I noticed she hits a couple of dark blues at the top. Makes the roof stand out a little bit more. She hits those in there. Pretty subtle. Okay. I'm going to come back here and hit some of those boats. And what you can do is just hit them all white. Hit them all white, just like that. Put them on thick too. You gotta cake it on there. If you're gonna cover it, you gotta cake it on there. Same in the foreground. You just want enough water on your brush to get it to flow, and that's it. Instant boat technique right here. You don't have to hit everyone perfect, you know. Remember, a lot of them are just behind stuff. I love it when she throws the shadow over one. That really makes things feel realistic. Even though she's just really being a painter, it's the knowledge. So there's the brown one and the green one. I'll glaze in the color later. Let it totally dry. And we'll glaze in some of this stuff later. Something in there. Nice. It gets all this sort of beige color over here. On these. There's some shadow on it too. Little darks in between the pylons. She even hits a little blue between the pylons, which is really a good move. You can see the water behind it. So mine are kind of stark. I also need to make my beige a little darker. I'll come back later and pop some of that blue in there. You can feel like water's coming from behind. Oh boy. Okay. I'm gonna get going on the foreground here. That's a lot in the background. I'm gonna lay down the yellow grass. Cad yellow. Let's put the cad yellow on there. And a little bit of cad red on there. I see little flicks of blue green in there too. So I just threw a little bit of the ultramarine blue in there. Just like that. And she does some really great things with the edges. We don't have time for that. I'm going to throw in the branches pretty dark. I'm going to use Prussian blue and cad red, and a little more cad red than Prussian blue. And I'm just going to throw them in like that. So if this weirds you out painting right over what you just did, it won't weird you out later. You'll get accustomed to it. Shoot, that's another one in there. There's a few. Really, she really hits quite a number of them. And then we have one kind of swirling over this way. Oops. And I'm not really caring that it looks just like hers because there's just no time. It's just this idea that you have this sort of curtain in front of everything. It sets a stage. Makes it a little dark right there.
I wonder if she had done another one without the trees in it. Just who knows?
Maybe, huh? Who knows? Yeah. And some of her things look very much. I tell you what, if you did that, you wouldn't be afraid to come back and do one like this.
Yeah.
But I don't think she knew what fear was. I'm just going to scumble this in this way. That gives me like fuzzy edges that way and fuzzy edges this way. See, oh, it's all fuzzy. It's kind of like that, like that. It's she's got a lot of blue in there too. I think I'll come back and hit a little bit of blue in there. And it goes down here underneath this one too. Back here really gets a lot of dark in there. And she punches all these little blue holes through there, which is great. And you just can't do that with watercolor. You can't come back and punch holes unless you're using white. So why not? Why not? Again, I'm going to handle this just like when we did these. So here we go. Add yellow, Prussian blue, add a little white to it. That'll get it opaque. It'll also desaturate the color, so you're going to have to add more yellow to it. Don't be afraid of, you might actually go through a lot of yellow. Something like that. I'm definitely seeing that color everywhere. I'm just going to use the side of my brush quite a bit like this. See? It's fast. I used to do trees on murals like this. And I mean, you turn around and the thing's done. See how that goes? Look at that. Just like that. Side of the brush. Just touch the just touch the surface there. Just touch it. There's little reds in there too. Add a little bit, touch of cad red. Some of these little guys like that. A little orange. Just go right over them, right over the background. Pretty dense right over a lot of this background. It's real easy to overdo it though. Get it too dense. Like, I just figured that out, Rob. Thanks for telling me. No problem. Honestly, it's the kind of thing where it wouldn't have mattered. I'm already apologizing. No, it wouldn't have. You're gonna make the only way to learn this kind of stuff is doing it. So just. So I got to. We were talking in my plein air class about critics. And I said, you know, I don't understand how a critic. I mean, I guess they could probably talk about what most people want to look at, but they really don't know what you're doing. You know, they're writers, unless they're actually painters, and then I get it. But I always think, you know, I mean, would you want an artist critiquing a writer? Or how about a painter critiquing I mean, maybe that would be a good idea. I think it would be a good idea. Like a painter critiquing a cook or a dancer. I think we'd have a lot of things to say that you wouldn't normally hear. But somebody that just, I'm a critic, you know. Even gallery owners, all the time I'm always thinking to myself, that's probably not what they were talking about here, or that's probably not the way they saw it. Because when I go out and do that, I'm thinking about this. And all my friends we've talked about it too, and we're gonna, you know, coming from here, and I don't know. So. I'm getting all dramatic again. Okay, so then I add a little more blue to it there. because that's a mostly shadow. And I do have white in my paint, but you know, even though you have white in your paint, if you use a little bit thinner, it's still, you can still see through it a little bit. So see, gouache has all these, it's not just an opaque medium, it's also translucent. So you can see through it as well as not seeing through it depending on how thick you use it. So I can glaze with it, I can do a semi-opaque glaze with it. In other words, it has a little bit of water, a little bit of stuff in it. Goes fast, right? We could certainly build up more of these orangey things, more of the reddish things. She's just got a lot of color in there. And you're not going to do it in our time, but some sort of reddish things in there. I see a couple in there. I see this color on the bark. I'm going to dry brush that on there a little bit. Give it a nice little highlight. I'm going to come back with some light on the bark. On the top part. You know, it doesn't, not everywhere, but you get it. Here and there. Well, I'll probably come back and smack those darks again. I mean, that is the signature of her style, those darks. Wow. You just, especially in Impressionism too, you don't see it as much. Put a couple of those in the grass. Close up that grass a little bit. Whatever. Let's see. And she comes back with a very strong highlight. Right there. It's got some yellow around it too. You certainly could come back and play with a lot of that white up in here. Yeah, she probably hits a little bit of white on the parts that are really going to grab a lot of light. They're facing the direction of the light. Right, and there's certainly more. You really got to load up sometimes. Really hit those bright things. Yeah, they're bright. Off to the right side. I'm hitting mine really, really stark because I know they're going to dry darker. Even here too. I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to put any where the shadow is. All right. Then come back and get a little bit of that beige. There. You can see how incomplete it looks without those darks. I'll come back with some really good dark in there. Now in here, I mean, she's just smacking them like that. She doesn't pull any punches. Ooh, that was dark. On the shadow side, I deepen the leaves. Some of those darks. There too. She even has a couple on here. Oh. So she just flicks it all around like, I mean, it's like she's really in touch with nature. That's what I mean. You'd think she'd have so many. She must have done a lot of studies. I'll bet you she did lots of studies. I just don't know how. I mean, you'd think there would be, well, maybe she burned them all or something. You hear that one all the time. The orangey ones. Yeah, occasionally. What time are we at here? I'm getting there. 11:30. And basically the rest is nuance. There's little grays in the grass, little warms and cools in the grass. Like I see, she pokes a lot of blue holes through things. So I'll take some white here. And just hit a few of those through things. She'll punch little. That's really common in impressionism. You'll go up and you go, wow, I can't believe all those little holes they have in there. Because it doesn't look like it. It really was Impressionists that started cutting back into things with the background, painting with the background. Like, in other words, I can come into this building right here with some blue. And I mean, other artists did it, but I mean, they sort of made it a thing. And in any of these little boats, I can come back with a green and just glaze it over like that. Some of those reds, they're not really red, they're kind of brown. I can just glaze it over. Oops, that was a lot. I'm gonna leave it though. Had a couple in here, went right over. Did one there. Yeah, mostly even back here, browns and greens and yellow. The green could be stronger. A little bluer so it separates from my trees. So hopefully you learned a little bit about using white today. There's no better way of doing it than doing exactly what we just did. That's a better way. I mean, or just going out and doing paintings, but you got to get in there and get your feet wet. And then you realize, oh my gosh, you can really use some white. Back here on the hill here too. It's not that bright, but it won't dry that bright either. You see how a lot of this just went passive on us? A lot of the townscape back here just. She's really poking some blue through there. Yeah. That's fun. They'll come back with some ultramarine blue and just throw a little glaze over this. You feel like it's a little bit more in shadow. Kind of goes back over this too. And, you know, a little bit of blue in the cast shadow. That's common. Impressionists will, because it picks up a lot of the sky color in there, so they'll hit a little bit of, in any plane that's facing downward in a shadow, it's on a level, excuse me, it's on a level surface, will pick up the sky. So you could get some in the trees, but I don't really see it. I do see some of that blue just in there, and just little touches of it. Here. Breaking things up. I mean, this really is all light. Okay, guys. Shall we?
There is a lot in this painting.
Yeah, but like an impressionist, if you can kind of just not obsess over things and just treat them like little very basic forms, you can do a lot quick. You can paint a whole cityscape really, really fast. But when you start looking at individual buildings, but if you start just treating buildings as just boxes and giving them like light on this plane, shadow on this plane, boom, 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 you can get the impression of something really quick. And that's impressionism. Just all kinds of little details you can do later. You can always hit a little reflection. We also had that shadow that I left out. Okay, just, you're right though, there is a lot in this painting. This is, okay, so we have the shadow going here I liked. And then she brings it over the front of the boat, which was really great. Giving us that feeling of depth. That's how you learn. You got to get in there and try these things. Just need a little bit darker green in there. Okay. What do you think? Shall I give you, how about 5 minutes or so?
Let's do or so.
Yeah, so let's,
10 minutes.
yeah. How about 10 minutes? So 11, I have 11:50. Well, just whatever, 10 minutes, okay? 10 minutes, everybody.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's get it going here. And here we go. Maria. Oh. That's a fine copy there. You there, Maria? Just hit your mute button. It's that mic button on there. Where are you? Let's see. There you are. Can I unmute? I can only ask you to unmute. I didn't know I could unmute you. Huh. Oh. I'll come back. Diane. Ah. You there, Diane? Everybody's not here. Okay. Cynthia.
Hi, Rob. I'm here.
Okay, there you are.
Sorry.
It's okay. That looks good. And you have a nice looking bunch of shacks there.
I spent so much time trying to figure out all the you know, the shadows and everything, which are pretty cool. But yeah,
you have them really nicely worked out. But actually, you wouldn't believe. I mean, she has probably less detail than you have.
Yeah, well.
But she also has a lot more time to work on this thing too.
Yeah. Well,
that's good. The way you built this is excellent. I mean, everything you're doing is perfect. The sky, background mountains, the I mean, everything. The water looks fantastic.
Well, you know what was really great about your tip about just adding white to everything?
Yeah.
Is that I could go over things like,
yeah.
you know, and you don't see like the you know, the blooms and the cauliflowers and all that stuff. I was able to actually go over parts of water that I didn't get to before, and it kind of blended fairly seamlessly. So I like that. That was really great.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to keep white with me all the time now.
Yeah. Then take a look at Sargent. He's doing it everywhere.
Yes.
And I think it's great luminosity too.
Yeah. So this was really a good, you know, lesson good study.
Yeah. It's a good idea just to jump in there.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, Maria, are you here yet?
I was just going to ask Diane if she is going to put the trees in.
Of course she is.
Yeah, eventually when I get to it, I hope to.
Okay.
So is Maria there? Not yet?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, it says I have to go. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I had to go, but I'm back.
I'm sorry. Oh, so you're okay. I didn't read your little message. I should have done that. Okay. There you go. So you got the sort of the curtain of the trees in there very nicely.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you got some background, you got some smoke. Now on the you put the smoke in white, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now if you want it to look a little more soft edge, after it's nice and dry, just take a little bit of water on the edges and it'll look just like smoke.
Oh, great. I'm going to say that.
That's a wonderful thing about using white is when you go back into it, it does different things. I mean, it's not stubborn to get out of the paper like it is when you use regular watercolor. It comes right off.
Okay, I'm going to try it.
Yeah, and you see the way you use the white here, right here on these.
Yeah.
Loading it up real thick like that. That is wonderful. You can see some of the greatest watercolor painters would do it just like you're doing there. You just got to load it up and cake it on there like that.
Okay.
yeah, it's a, um, I think it looks great, but not only that, I mean, lots of the great artists did it. So you have that to validate yourself. But then,
But
so
then,
if you want to, now what you can do then on top of this, if it has, let's say, a shadow side to it or something, like let's say maybe this side's in shadow, you can take a little bit of blue and glaze it on there.
mm-hmm.
Or,
Oh,
you
that
know,
looks better.
yeah, you could little cast shadow down there or something, whatever. But really easy. But you know, it's good that you want to wait for it to dry, because if you don't wait for it to dry, then it just mixes with your white and it turns into a big mess. So,
Yeah.
but everybody's got to learn that too. So you know, that's just part of the business. I would give some of these a little bit of shadow on the shadow side.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want it with the white and some beige, kind of come back in. I'll just use orange and hit a couple of these on the light side, like there, and you know I had a little bit on the trunk and a little highlight too.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna take
yeah,
a screenshot of your recommendations here.
it's on the recording too. Just so you know.
Oh, okay.
It's,
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Cindy. Ooh, pretty. Let me take my blues off there. Oh, lovely. Now you're all watercolor. Did you use any white?
I only have Chinese white, and it
A
just
little bit.
becomes
Yeah.
very gray, so there's not much on there.
Right. The Chinese white doesn't cover like the gouache does, but at the same time, you know, it's got a really translucent, beautiful quality to it. So that looks great. I mean, wow.
Well, better in the photo than it does sitting here. I think taking a photograph helped.
What do you think? Any troubles you're having on this, or?
Would be good to do it yet again. You can imagine this is about my third or fourth try, but it's
Wow.
hard to. It gets really dark. It gets a little too dark. It isn't as luminous as hers.
Yeah, and she really hits that blue in there too. Really, it's blue.
Blue, yes. It just got a little gray.
And she was working in oils, so
Yeah,
the paint is completely different.
yeah. It's an opaque medium, so I mean, you can thin it down and use it transparent. A lot of people don't know that, but
Mm-hmm.
I know you know that. So
I gave you all my oil paint.
yeah, I know that's true. It's a stinky old oil paint though. There's something stinky in that box. Maybe it was mold or something.
Oh, who knows?
Whatever. I'll use them, no question about it.
I probably have more.
I'll just, you know. But how old are those?
I have no idea. We've been here 20 plus years, like 26 years. I don't think I painted in oil after we moved in.
I was going to say they definitely look older than that.
Could be. Some belong to friends.
Hmm. Well, I think it's great. If you'll notice, what I did was on some areas it gets a little complicated because of all the white. So like back in here or even down in here. So I would just take a little glaze of blue, you know,
Okay.
maybe some of these, you know.
Mhm.
I know some of them are the leaves. So then if you wanted to feel more like the leaves, I would really punch the saturation in the color. That'll make it come forward. That's extremely saturated, but you know, really
Mhm.
saturated. If you want those to come forward, glazing saturation. I mean, your little village there looks fantastic.
Thank you. I grieved a lot over that little village.
I wouldn't do anything. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you, Cindy. And Gail. wow, gal, I mean, you got it down.
Actually did this one last night and I redid it in class, but I don't like the one I did in class as well. Probably needs another half hour.
Oh yeah.
And this is definitely an oil painting. No, hard to make it look good in watercolor.
Yeah, I mean, there's some parts you can like in the background and on the blues, on the water, I think you can do pretty transparent, but some of the other areas are just, I don't know. You can do it. I mean, I think Diane was doing a pretty good job on the village. It was fairly transparent.
Yeah.
Some opaque, but this looks just, you'd really get that broken feeling that, you know, you do anyway, but she does that quite a bit. If you look at her work, she does, I mean, you might really like her work.
Yeah.
Because she kind of works like you.
I never had heard of her.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's a great one. She's a great one.
Thank you.
She's at least as big as Marion Wachtel.
Okay.
I mean, they're definitely on a level playing surface. But yeah, no, she gets passed over quite a bit, and I think it has to do with her not just having a lot of painting, you know, or something. I don't know what it is, but she's really, and like what they said, she really embraces a lot of the modernist ideas. Yet I don't know why she turned her nose up at modernism, like you said, but I don't think. I mean, her work is about as modern as you get with the California Impressionists, really pushing color, really pushing the brush strokes. So
yeah, it doesn't look dated at all.
Yeah. In fact, I think a lot of people working today could take a few lessons from her, you know, on how to not make your painting look so dated.
Right.
Smack in that color. Okay. Thank you, Gail.
Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome. And there's Teresa. Now, Teresa, wow, full watercolor. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to see if I can make it.
You did a great job. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. And see, just the way you hung on to this whole mass here, you know, just big masses, and give it a sense of light over here, you know, and shadow. It's fantastic handling. Let's see. I mean, I don't really have anything except good things to say. Hello. Nice boats. Really great. But let's just say you have to, let's say if you wanted to poke a couple holes through here,
Yeah.
you could do it with white or white and blue or something like that. So if you want to try it out, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you.
But
That would be better.
I think you're finished. So throw it to me. Right, and you got plenty of good darks in there. Good. Yeah. Wonderful. Nice painting. All right. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Christine. All right. Let's get it up there. Quite blue right in here. Got a little dark. Got some reflection on there. Nice. Now, I think if we push a little more gray in this background line, because you got plenty of blue back there. I mean, we'll get it to recede a little bit more, especially back in here. And now you're not really using any white either, huh?
I didn't get to it.
Okay. Yeah. At any moment, you did it with the boats down here. I don't think you used white, but if you wanted to put some of the whites back here, you could always plop in a little bit of white.
Yeah, that was the plan.
So that's fine. Now the way you built this these bushes up is just great. I like to do it like that too, and then come back with something a little bit, let's say lighter,
Yeah, yellower.
yellow green, yeah, and then we can get darker in the shadow, just like a ball. You get shadow, medium color, and then the light, and maybe a little highlight extra. Same with these. I like how you left a lot of blue background. Makes them feel like you're really looking through those trees.
I didn't finish with the leaves with a lot of the trees, but that right hand one is pretty finished. But the others, I want to put more. Even the branches should have some light side and some dark side, and I just didn't get to it.
Exactly. Well, it's just the fact that you see that, I mean, you're gonna.
Yeah, I did it on the trunks to the far right, but I didn't get to any of the others.
Yeah. Well, I think what you got is looking pretty good. Now this one does tend to be in a line like that.
Yeah, I think it's much more broken in the picture.
No, I think this part looks really good. What I would do is, if you're wanting to take it a little further, you could take a little white, like down here. Let me, like down in here, and build some of these up. These little buildings and things, just almost treat it abstractly. It just because this whole bunch of buildings is in front of this bunch of buildings a little bit.
Yeah.
So then, if you can kind of bring that, and then it has a shadow side to it too, like here.
Oh, I didn't know what that was. Okay.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. It's so abstract. Sometimes it's difficult to even see. A couple little shadows in there or whatever, and then throw a whole bunch. You could just treat it very abstract like this. Throw some leaves because you still need some leaves in this area. Throw some leaves over it, and no problem. And you'll get a little bit more sort of depth. And so this kind of feels like it's going downhill a little bit. We can correct a lot of that by throwing some boats in front of it. Like just like these areas. I'll try to have them really bold here. Yeah, and then I think there's like a red building off here to the end or something like that. But throw that in there, and then throw a bunch of leaves in there, and it'll conquer that feeling. It shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, those are pretty normal. Alrighty, look at all my scribbles.
Well, thank you.
All right. I love my class. Who thanks me for scribbling all over the painting? All right, Henry, let's take a look. Wow. Henry, you nailed it. I mean, you nailed it. You nailed it times 10. Look at that. Wow. That is quite nice. I love all the blues you put in there. I mean, you really see it for what it is and then really take it into your own way of doing things. It really looks like a Henry.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
It's really the overlapping of foregrounds, background, middle ground is really a challenge.
Does it, huh? Gives you the depth.
Right.
Yeah, and I like how you can see through this and you don't get, I mean, the foreground doesn't obscure the background too much, but it sort of offers like a scenic kind of curtain that you're looking through.
Yeah.
I love looking at things through trees. It's one of my favorites. Not just to paint, but just to look at. Great looking leaves. I mean, I don't think you're having any problems with anything, are you?
Thank you.
Yeah. That looks fantastic. Did you use any wax?
No, no masking, no, just save the white.
Yeah, I was just gonna say because.
Yeah, I did add some opaque white after I submitted on the highlight of the leaves on the upper right, I think.
Over there, yeah. See that? Even your reds, though. Some of your reds, some of your branches, yeah.
Yeah.
Great looking color. Great. I love how your colors just bouncing all around. I mean, that painting's a winner right there. That's a winner.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's look at it really small here. Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome. Whoops.